Hi, this is Lauren from Daisy Cottage Designs, and I'm here with a video tutorial for you on the confetti cake blanket that you see on the screen in front of you. This blanket is really easy to make and has great texture, and believe it or not, it only uses simple stitches. So the only stitch that I think might throw you off just a little bit is the front post double crochet. So let's go ahead and talk through the pattern, and then I will show you how to make front post double crochets. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is grab a J crochet hook, which is a size 10 or a 6mm hook, and some worsted weight yarn. Now I am using Brava Speckle in the shade Cake Pop, and it is a really fun speckled yarn that has some bright colors sprinkled throughout, and to me it looks just like a confetti cake. It looks just like a cake that has sprinkles throughout it when you bake it, and one of my friends said it really looks like it should smell like vanilla. And so that's the yarn that I used for this pattern. I used 5 skeins for the baby blanket size, but all the yarn information and the yardages are available in the written pattern, which is linked in the description below. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is chain a multiple of 4. And for this swatch, I chained 20 just for the sake of time. And for the baby blanket, I chained 104. So after you have your chain, you're going to want to double crochet into the second chain and in each chain across. And so what that means is after you work your first row of double crochets, you'll have 1 fewer stitches than you have chains. So I chained 20, so I have 19 double crochet stitches. If you started with a chain of 104, you should have 103 double crochet stitches. Now again, there are 10 different sizes in the pattern, so the starting chain is different, but it will always be a multiple of 4. All right, so after you've made your chain and you've double crocheted in the second chain and in each chain across, come back and I will show you how to work the front post double crochet rows. All right, so after you finish your first row, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work, and then you're going to work double crochet stitches in the first 3 stitches. So don't skip the first stitch because your chain does not count as a stitch, so you're just going to double crochet in the first stitch, and then you're going to double crochet in the second stitch, and you're going to double crochet in the third stitch. And then after the third stitch, you are going to make a front post double crochet. So for a normal double crochet stitch, we insert our hook into the top of the stitch. But for a front post double crochet, you are just going to insert your hook. You'll yarn over just like a normal double crochet, and you'll just insert your hook behind the post of the stitch. So you'll go in beside the stitch and come out beside the stitch, and you can see that the stitch that you would normally work into is just on top of your hook. And then you'll pull up a loop. There are 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the remaining 2 loops. And so we just made our first front post double crochet, and now we'll double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And after those 3 double crochets, we'll front post double crochet around this stitch right here. So you'll yarn over, insert your hook under the post and back out the front. Then you'll pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops. And then we'll double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. We'll yarn over, insert our hook behind the post, and pull up a loop. There are 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the remaining 2 loops. And so you can see that we're getting that texture from those raised post stitches. It's a little hard to see in the light. All right, now we're going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then after that third double crochet, we're going to work our front post double crochet around the next stitch. So that means we'll yarn over, insert our hook behind, that post and come out the front, and then we'll pull up a loop. There are 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the remaining 2 loops. And then we'll double crochet in the next 3 stitches, and you're just going to do that all the way across. So double crochet in 3 stitches, and then front post double crochet. Then double crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then front post double crochet. And you'll do that all the way across your front post double crochet rows. Then after you finish your front post double crochet row, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. And then you're just going to double crochet in each stitch across. So you'll double crochet in the first stitch and in each stitch across. And I'm going to finish this double crochet row, and then I'll come back and we'll work one more front post double crochet row together. Okay, so I just finished my row of double crochets, and now I'm going to chain 1 and turn my work. And now I'm going to double crochet in the first 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm going to front post double crochet around this next stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook from front, going from the front to the back and back to the front. I'm going to pull up a loop. Then I'm going to pull through the first 2 loops and pull through the remaining 2 loops. Then I'm going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to front post double crochet around this next stitch. So that means I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook around that post, and pull up a loop. There's 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops. Then I'm going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm going to front post double crochet around this next stitch. So I go behind the post and back out the front. Then I'm going to work my front post double crochet. I'm going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. And now I'm going to front post double crochet around the next. And then I'm going to keep doing that all the way across the row. You're going to keep doing that all the way across the row. And then you're going to end with 3 double crochets. And so the front has this texture, and then the back, instead of popping out, it pops in. So the texture is a little different, but I like both of them a lot. All right, so I'm going to work a few more rows, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to do the border. Okay, so I just finished my swatch. For this swatch, I started with a chain of 20, like we just did, and I worked 10 rows. So no matter how many rows you work, you're going to want to make sure you end on a front post double crochet row, which is the row that has the texture. And so that's always going to be an even number. So after you finish your last row of the pattern, and for the baby blanket size, I believe that's 74 rows, you're going to chain 1, and you're not going to turn your work. You're just going to start working right down this raw edge. And so you can see here we have this is a row of double crochets, and then this is a row of double crochets, and this is a row. So we have all these rows of double crochets. We have 10 rows, and we're going to alternate between working 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets per row. So for each set of 2 rows, we're going to have 3 single crochets, all right? So I'm going to start by working 1 single crochet into the side of this first row. And there's no wrong way to do this, but there's 1. So for this row, I'm going to do 2. 2, 3. So for these 2 rows, I have 3 single crochets down the side. Now for these 2 rows, I need 3 single crochets. So I'm going to do 1 into this row where there's a little bit of purple, 1, and then 2 single crochets for this one right here where there's a little bit of teal. All right, so it ends right there. So 1 single crochet into the side of this row, and then 2 into the side of this row. And again, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. Some people will even just go right around the row or the stitch by going right underneath it. But I kind of like to go into the side of it. I just always make sure I have at least 2 loops on my hook. So if I just do this one, it's kind of stretchy, but as long as I make sure there are 2, I'm good to go. So here's 1. And then for this row right here, I'm going to have 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and 2. All right, and then the same thing, I'm going to have 1 single crochet for this row with the little bit of teal here, and then 2 single crochets in this row. So 1 and 2, 3. So I have 3 single crochets for these 2 rows. I have 3 single crochets for these 2 rows. I have 3 single crochets for these 2 rows. Now I'm on these 2, so a little bit of blue and a little bit of yellow. I need 1 for this row and 2 into the side of this row. So here's 1, 1, 2, and 3. And then I need 3 single crochets for my last 2 rows. So here's 1, 2, and 3. And for the last stitch of the row, that's going to count as my corner. So I'm going to work 2 more single crochets into that same stitch for a total of 3. So here's 2 and 3, and that just lets me turn my corner. And then I'm going to keep doing that around my whole blanket. On the bottom and the top, I'll just work 1 single crochet per stitch. And onto this side, I'll alternate every other row. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets per row. And then I'll work 3 single crochets in every corner. And then once I get back to the first corner I worked, I'll meet you back there and show you how to finish. Okay, so I just finished working along the top of my swatch, and now I have 1 stitch left on that top row. And so what I'm going to do to finish that off is I'm going to work 3 single crochets into that corner. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to slip stitch to the first single crochet that I made. That's actually my chain. I'm going to slip stitch to the first single crochet to join. And then I am going to cut my yarn, and then I will show you how to add the next color and do the shell stitch border. Okay, so I went ahead and I got those ends out of the way. I just wove my ends. And now what we're going to do is we're going to join our yarn at any corner. Now we made 3 single crochets in each corner. So you can see here I have 1, 2, and 3. So I'm just going to insert my hook into the middle stitch of this corner. Any corner will do. And then I'm going to make a loop with my border color, which is Brava worsted in the shade Cotton Candy. So I'm going to join Brava worsted in the shade Cotton Candy. And I'm just going to loop that over my hook and pull it through the stitch. Then I'm going to pull my tail kind of down to the front and then grab my working yarn, and then I'm going to chain 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work 3 half double crochets into that same stitch. I'm going to yarn over and work 3 half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. I worked 3 half double crochets into that corner. Now to complete a shell stitch for this border, you're going to need 5 half double crochets, but we'll finish the shell once we get back around. All right, so we're going to, after we work our 3 half double crochets, we're going to skip the next stitch and slip stitch in the stitch after that. And then we're going to skip a stitch and work 5 half double crochets in the stitch after that. So skip this next stitch and then work 5 half double crochets into the stitch after that. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to skip the next stitch, slip stitch in the stitch after that. And then we're going to skip the next stitch and work 5 half double crochets into the stitch after that. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we just worked our second full shell. We're going to skip the next stitch and slip stitch into the stitch after that. Then we'll skip the next stitch and work 5 half double crochets into the stitch after that. So we're skipping this one and 5 half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to skip the next stitch and work 5 half double crochet, and slip stitch into the next. Then we're going to skip the next stitch and work 5 half double crochets into the stitch after that. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to skip the next stitch and slip stitch into the stitch after that. And then I'm going to skip the next stitch and work 5 half double crochets into the stitch after that. And I'm going to do that all the way around. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5 half double crochets. And then I'm going to skip the next stitch and I'm going to slip stitch into the stitch after that. And I'm going to do that all the way around my project. So I just finished that first edge. I'm going to keep doing that all the way around my project. And what's nice is I don't even have to worry about doing anything specific in the corners. I just do 5 half double crochets in one stitch, skip the next and slip stitch in the stitch after that, skip the next, 5 half double crochets in the stitch after that, all the way around. And then I will come back and show you what to do when we get back to our first shell. All right, so I'm almost done with this last side of my border, and I just wanted to show you. So I just worked a shell. So I worked 5 double crochets, and then I would skip a stitch and slip stitch, skip a stitch, work 5 half double crochets, skip a stitch and slip stitch. So I didn't start with a slip stitch, I started with a shell. So I just have to adjust a little bit, and I promise you won't even notice. So if you find yourself where everything doesn't line up just right, it's not going to matter if after one of your shells you don't skip a stitch and you just slip stitch in the next. So I worked 5 half double crochets and I'm just going to slip stitch in the next stitch rather than skipping a stitch. And then I'm going to work my 5 shells or my 5 half double crochets here. So I'll skip a stitch and work my 5 half double crochets. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to slip stitch into, I'm going to skip a stitch and slip stitch into the stitch after that. And then I'm back to my corner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work 2 half double crochets into that corner stitch. You can see it right here. I'm going to work 2 half double crochets into that stitch because I started with 3 and I need 5. So there's my 2 half double crochets. And you can see that it doesn't even, it's not noticeable at all, especially on a blanket, to have to skip a different number of stitches somewhere on the project, okay? So it's a lot easier than having to make sure every row has the exact number of stitches that you need to space everything out perfectly. It's easier just to adjust when you get to the last couple shells. All right, so after you finish that shell, you'll slip stitch into the top of the half double crochet to join. And then you would cut your yarn, weave your ends, and you would be done. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, have a great day and happy crochet.